Back on the Build Phase podcast. Actually, it's not. This is, you know what? From now on, we're going to call this Build Phase TV. And we're back on Build Phase TV. I'm your host, Mr. Ben, and on today's episode, I'm going to have a raw spoiler reaction to the cards from the upcoming Civil Wars battle. It's probably going to be Civil War battles, you think? The upcoming Civil War box that's going to be released in June. This was originally supposed to be out in May, but you know, it's COVID times. Nothing's happening the way we want it to. So let's just dive right into this. I have been having some issues with the Upper Deck website again today. I've been getting this error page not available due to maintenance or capacity issues. So again, I hope this is a capacity thing, and there's just so many people that want to see these new Versus cards that the website can't keep up, because that's how fast our game is exploding. Faster than websites can keep up. All right. Just going to look over this top paragraph here saying our philosophy for making this product is that it's the best place in the multiverse to learn how to play Versus. I totally agree with that. The entire design, revamped rulebook, development. Okay, so this is all basically, this might even be an exact quote of what they've said on the previous couple reveals. Last time we looked at allies and plot twists. Today we're going to look at how each side deals with +1 and -1 counters. Okay, interesting. Now, I'm already excited about this card. Okay, wait, what do I do here? Okay, I think I got the slideshow off. I really like this card. I like Black Widow a lot. I like the card art a lot. I think this looks really cool. Again, I'm finding myself being less harsh on the background deficient cards when the backgrounds look cool and kind of, even though there's not stuff back here on the card, because of how cool the background looks, it almost makes Natasha look even more awesome. So I'm all in on this art. I like this a lot. Even though, again, generally in comic books, I make fun of these panels where there's a character standing in a void, but this looks cool. 4/3/5 range. Okay, four range on starting on turn 1 is actually pretty good. You're going to be able to deal with just about any 1-drop your opponent plays on turn 1, and you can do it safely because of the range. That feels pretty good. Master Spy. Main phase, pay a red, put 3 -1 counters divided as you choose on enemy back row characters. In my head, I was thinking, wow, this power is going to be great, and then I got to the word back row characters, so your opponent can play around this pretty heavily. Maybe not if they are in a position where they have to have attackers, they don't have the range, so they can't put people in the back row. But if I see this main character, before I look at Widowmaker, I'm going to guess it involves putting -1 counters on something, because this seems to be the theme in this expansion. They give a character a level 1 power that does a thing, and that directly feeds into their level up condition, which I'm fine with. I like characters that do that. I also like tricky characters too, for us people that have been around a long time. I'm not saying that they shouldn't do those kinds of characters. I like both. Clearly though, this is going to be new player friendly. When an enemy character gains any number of -1 counters, Black Widow gains that much XP. And that 7 is a big number. So her power isn't going to get it done without 3 activations. So if the only way she can level up is through the use of this power, you have to pay for it 3 times. That means turn 3 is your earliest level up, and that's assuming they put at least 1 person in the back row every turn. If I'm playing against your Black Widow, why would I put my guys in the back row? So this deck already, before I look at what the payoff is, this deck already demands additional ways to stack -1 counters, and it probably demands some row manipulation. You want to have some push effects to push characters in the back row to be able to use the Master Spy power at all. I'm not super optimistic about this character at this point. When she levels up, she becomes a 7/6, still has 5 health, keeps range, and gains Master Assassin as well as keeping Master Spy. And pay a green, put 3 +1 counters on Black Widow for each enemy character that she stunned this turn. So in a perfect world, you can use her Master Spy power to finish some characters off, stun them, maybe 1 or 2, and then you pay this green and you get 6 counters on her before, yes, Major Victory. Major Victory would be an excellent card to put into a deck with your level 1 Black Widow. excellent suggestion, Patrick, from the chat. So this isn't what I want to do. I want to use this power, and I want to become a 10 attack and then attack with her. But this power doesn't do anything unless she's already stunned somebody. So you have to attack with her and then put the counters on. That doesn't make her an assassin. That makes her like a master turtle. She protects herself after she does her assassinating. I think this is a little bit of a miss flavor-wise and mechanically. I mean, this could get really crazy if you can like put a net launcher on her and pay the blue to net launch somebody, then maybe have an ability to attack and like throw some X-Men in there so you can ready, and then you get 6 +1 counters and then attack again. This seems like a long walk. Now maybe there is going to be stuff on team that feeds into her level up and helps her do what she wants to do, to where you don't mind on turn 4 or 5 attacking for 7, stunning a guy, then paying the green counters to try to like get the combat payoff of her power on subsequent turns. And the upward, like the ceiling on this is pretty high, because if you can chain effects that let her stun characters, like plot twists that let her strike a character, use the -1 counters. I'm trying to think, isn't there somebody that whenever you put -1 counters on a character, you put double that many? Is that Viper? I might not be remembering exactly right, but there are definitely ways that you can cause a character to stun other characters and then still have her ready to be able to pay the green, put a bunch of counters on her, and attack with her. Or maybe the attack is one of it, but you chain a few of these together. Because if you could stun 3 characters and pay a green, 9 +1 counters is really good. Like +9/+9 on an already 7/6 with range, that's really good. How realistic is that? I mean, it does sound fun. It sounds like something me and the boy would smash into decks that kind of, like sometimes you put a tomato can in front of a deck just so you can see how it works, and it's less about trying to fight back and necessarily punch holes in the weaknesses of the deck you're figuring out, and it's more about just putting some, like a training dummy essentially there for them to see if the deck is fundamentally sound in a vacuum. And if a deck can't get out of the vacuum playing against a chump, playing against a bum kind of phase, then it's probably not a good deck. And I am not sure that this deck is going to produce like a consistent, powerful result. I'm not convinced. Again, maybe if there's some on-team stuff that feeds into her, but I haven't seen it yet. Although this did say this article is going to be plus and minus counters, so I assume we're going to see some of that right now. This is a pro registration Ms. Marvel. Man, I kind of forgot about like Ms. Marvel. She's been Captain Marvel for so long now, but this is like old school Carol Danvers, which makes sense considering when this storyline came out. So alien physiology, she can't have -1 counters. So, okay. This is not an example of what I'm talking about in terms of seeing something that helps Black Widow do stuff. We need characters that don't have alien physiology. But so I see that 15 attack. 15 attack on turn 7 feels real good. Flight, range, and you're going to be able to attack with that 15 on turn 7 and probably turn 8. That's going to stun a ton of the Omegas. I don't think all of them. Kid Omega has a 16 defense, right? So it doesn't stun all the Omegas, but that stuns a lot of 7 drops. That stuns a lot of 8 drops. This seems like a good card. This seems like a playable card. In a sealed environment, like if you're playing sealed with just the Civil War arc or playing draft with the Civil War arc, this is great. I would take this over either of the other 2 7 drops that we saw. I will also observe that because this is another 7 drop, at one point I was predicting, well, not predicting, but kind of speculating that what if the Civil War box, instead of being kind of the traditional types of boxes that we expect when they do that, where you have like, 2 or 3 1 drops, probably 3 2 drops, 2 or 3 3 drops, 2 4 drops, 2 6s, 2 7. What if they gave us like 5 1 drops and 5 2 drops, and they really front loaded the curve? And I thought thematically that would be really cool, because you would end up with a Civil War box that if somebody just buys this to build decks and play games with their friends, and this is where they're jumping into versus, which we know they're trying to do, you would end up with this versus experience that was really board heavy, especially if a lot of these low drop guys all had multiple hit points. So they stick around. So every turn you've got these big wide boards with lots of attacks. And this being the second pro registration 7-drop, and the fact that we've already seen an anti-registration 7-drop implies to me that this box will have kind of the traditional couple of choices at 7, couple of choices at 6, couple of choices at 5, a little bit heavier density of choices on like 1, 2, and 3. Probably that's where this Civil War box is going to be, which is fine. I mean, I thought it was a cool idea, but it seems like this is going to be a little, which frankly is probably a better way to expose somebody to the game. Mid-range decks are the easiest, most intuitive decks to pick up, and if this is supposed to be a box that's appealing to new players, giving them mid-range decks where you play a 1 on turn 1, a 4 on turn 4, and so on is probably the better way. So I got carried away with my own idea there. I think this is a playable card. Not like my favorite 7-drop that's ever printed. Like in an open format, do you pick Jungle Hunter over her? Probably. But 15 attack with flight and range is a big deal. The small butt, I don't think that matters. Because whoever they're going to throw into her to hit that 5 probably is going to get hit back. I mean, yeah, they could throw like a 3-drop at her, but it's turn 7, turn 8. Is your opponent playing 3-drops? I mean, cool. Like, that doesn't bum me out. So I think that's a playable card. Oh, is there anything else here that... nothing. This like flavor text here doesn't matter. 8 cost Sentry. So the other Sentry is the biggest stat line on turn 8. He's an 18-18, and this guy is a 1-1. What is happening? So, this is kind of reminiscent of the base box Adam Warlock, in that the way he's recruited, he's kind of unusable, but you do a thing, and then you have a really strong board presence. So you have to pay a blue and a green. I like that yellow is not involved here, so it can't be shut down. Because if you spend your turn 8 to bring this guy out, and Jessica Jones is anywhere near the board, that's the end. Like, that's so frustrating. Like, nobody wants to feel that way. So I like that it's a blue and a green, and you put 20. So he becomes a 21 if you can do it. Now, if somebody gets through it once, he is 3 health. But even if you can't afford to put the 20 counters on him, you get him down, you pay the blue and the green, you get a good stun, and then they put together a team attack and stun him back. He's still a flying blocker for 2 more turns before they can deal with him. I think that's good. I think. I mean, there's so many ways to deal with +1 counters. Like, if you're in an environment where even the odds exists, or any of the other, like, remove all the +1 counters from a guy cards, like, you're essentially paying 3 cards for nothing at that point. You're going to get 3 for 1 by an even the odds. I think this guy could see play, but I like 8-drops that come down and do something. This guy does not do something unless you play him and do something else. Now, by turn 8, you could probably have seen enough cards that ensuring that you have a green and a blue isn't that big of an ask. But are you going to sit on a green and a blue until turn 8? I mean, I could just play Thanos and have wound acceleration. I could just play the other Sentry and not have to pay anything and have a much better blocker. I don't know. Maybe if there's some kind of pro registration card that lets you multiply the number of +1 counters on somebody or move them onto other people. Like, this guy in a deck with Megan is cool, but then they both want greens, you know? Same thing with Flint. So the synergies with this guy are going to be eating from the same plate, and if you miss on that, I mean, to pay 8 for a 1-1 is terrible. Unplayable, pure trash. How often do you end up in a situation where your 8 cost is a 1-1? Probably too often. This probably isn't going to be good enough. In a wide open format, this probably isn't going to be good enough. Probably. I don't know. That's His upside is definitely there. Do they say anything else about this guy? No. They just say, well, how does Cap expect to counter these behemoths? Oh, man. Okay, so hold on. Are they going to give us a bunch of anti-registration guys that rip apart people with +1 counters and throw -1 counters everywhere? Because if that's the case, if right within this box there's a ton of answers that just ruin Sentry, then this guy is unplayable. Let's see. Hold on. I want to look at this Cloak and Dagger again. So this is Tandy's hair right here, right? Right there? Yeah, because there's Spider-Man. And yeah, so these are like, this is like a stack. Oh, can we get promo stackers? Dude, could we get like an OP kit, a Civil War OP kit where we get these cards and they're full art and you can actually put like him in the front row and Dagger in the back row so that they stack? Oh, and there's a Goliath! I didn't even see the Goliath. Oh, man. Okay, this is awesome. Already, just looking at the card art on Cloak and Dagger, I'm so happy with this. And I really hope Upper Deck takes a page from their own playbook in old verses and brings back stackers. Give us some stackable promo cards. You clearly already have control of this piece of art. You can put this same piece of art on 2 different cards. Just give it to me full art so I can put them together and it looks like one panel of art on my board. Okay, what does this guy do? I'm getting... Like, who cares about the art? These cards could be blank, right? It's the powers that matter. So he's a 3-cost, 4/5/1 with Flight. He is anti-registration affiliated, pay a blue, put a -1 counter on each exhausted character on each side. Not impressed. I don't think that power is that good. I don't think it does enough. I think he only has 1 health, which is really bad for Captain America. I think if he appeared and did this, it would be cool. That's a bummer. I was really... You know what? Don't waste... Like, give us a different card as a promo. Nobody's going to play this guy. This isn't good. This isn't good. Oh, I'm so disappointed. So, 4/5 with Flight is actually not terrible. 5 defense on turn 3, particularly with Flight, could really slow down an opponent. And if they have to commit multiple attackers to try to get the team... Oh, yeah, he doesn't have multiple health. So if they have a multi-attacker team attack, it's not like next turn you can spam... I mean, I guess if people are doing team attacks into your Captain America, you throw this guy down, and then you can put -1 on everybody that they... That's disappointing, man. His stats are fine on turn 3. If he had 2 health, I would not be even half as upset. But this just... I'm looking at this card, and not only am I seeing a card that's not that great, I'm seeing a card slot that isn't helping support me play Captain America. And that is upsetting. Okay, so Dagger is a 2-cost. Are all daggers 2? The defenders? Yeah, and the hammer. They're all 2, I think. So she's a 3/3/1 with range. Stop giving me 1 health characters, Super Awesome Games. It's not super awesome to have 1 health characters when I want to play Captain America. If a -1 counter would be put on a character on your side, put a +1 counter on Dagger instead. Okay, so I see the synergy with Cloak and Dagger here. You exhaust your characters, and then after I attack with my whole board, I pay the blue. That turns Dagger really big because all the -1 counters, instead of going on my exhausted characters, turn into +1s that go on Dagger. And that's sort of your payoff. This is more reminiscent of the Defender's Cloak and Dagger to me than the Hammer Cloak and Dagger, because the Defender's Cloak did a thing that affected everybody pretty negatively, which the Shifting Loyalties one does too. But it does feel to me kind of like, well, I guess, yeah, all versions of Cloak and Dagger are doing something similar, where Cloak does a global effect and Dagger turns the global negative effect that Cloak has into a positive for you. So you have to stick both these 1 health characters to the board in order to get the payoff. I mean, Dagger could be a meta call. I think this is better than the Defender's Dagger. Like if you're trying to run a Senator Kelly deck and you're worried about latent mutations and stuff, her turning those -1 counters into +1s is probably better than just not letting them happen. Although Defender's Dagger rips -1 counters off of characters when she comes into play. So maybe she's not better. Maybe it's just a lateral move. These two cards definitely combo well off of each other. But this is the thing with Versus, and particularly with 1 health characters in Versus, is they don't stick around. The game moves too fast to rely on fragile board presence. You need characters that do something when they come into play, and by the time they leave play, you've gotten the value out of them already. These guys have to stick. So you're going to need a main character, you're going to need a strategy that's going to let you either stick them because you're disrupting your opponent by exhausting their characters or not letting them declare good attacks, or you defend them by putting out other juicier targets. So Cloak and Dagger end up sticking to the board because your opponent has to do triage and there's a bigger threat elsewhere. I don't know. I don't think this gets there, man. That's disappointing. I was really excited for this card art. They do play well. I like the way Cloak has flight, Dagger has range. Their stat lines kind of line up well. Man, I wish this wasn't a superpower. I wish this was like once per turn, but not during combat or something. Like paying a blue to... I mean, what's the biggest board you can envision on like turn 3 or turn 4? 5 characters? So maybe I have 5 and you have 5, and there was some kind of a stalemate happening, so we're both building boards but not attacking each other. I mean, that would essentially create 10 counters, 5 on Dagger, 5 on your board. I mean, I'm really reaching. I don't know if these guys are going to see play. That's a bummer. Okay, Goliath. So I'm officially out of Theo's tournament, where we had to guess characters, and... I like the Goliath I designed better. So this guy's a 4-cost 4/4/2. All those numbers are fine. 4-cost 4/4 is fine. I mean, it's a little small, but it's not unplayable. And the 2 health, I think, is the most important number on this card. We need multi-health anti-registration guys if you're going to be able to play Captain America and do his Captain America stuff. He pay a green, put 4 +1 counters on him. So he basically comes with a Might Makes Right built in, costed the same. We know Might Makes Right is strong, but it has versatility. This guy essentially comes down on turn 4 as an 8/8 if you've got the green. 8/8 on turn 4 is quite good. You look at a card like Mac from Predator. He only gets 8/8 temporarily, and he's still seen play in some environments. Yeah, this is fine, I guess. So it's all... I'm so disappointed. Like, this is just before one of my favorite moments in the entire Civil War storyline, and it's like a cliffhanger. Like, this is right before Clore kills this guy, and like, I wanted to see that moment in the game, and what I got is like the ellipse right before that moment, and I bet this is the last we see of it, given how... I mean, they just don't have that many card slots. So this card's fine. I'm a little personally disappointed with the fact that it knocks me out of Theo's make up a character thing, and that this doesn't quite do what I would have liked Goliath to do. But if I ignore the theming of this card and I just look at a 4-cost 4/4/2 with a built-in MMR, this is a playable card. This is a playable card outside of just anti-registration decks. This guy's a decent 4-drop if you're on greens. But then again, if you're on greens, you probably play a different 4-drop and just run MMR. He's fine. I'm not that excited about him, but he's fine. He's playable. 8-cost Neymar. Love this card art. I think the same art might have appeared in old Versus. I can't remember for sure. Anti-registration. Whoa, look at that stat line. 21/21. 2 health with flight. At the end of your turn, put 7 -1 counters on Neymar because he's a fish out of water. And if you can go under the sea, you remove each -1 counter on Neymar for a blue or a green. Darling, it's better down where it's wetter. Take it from me. I used to know all the lyrics to that Little Mermaid song. I was a lonely child. So this is fine. I mean, you play an 8 cost 21/21. You're probably going to have to put 7 -1 counters on him after you get that initial stun when you play him. That'll let your opponent crack back, and then on your next turn you get a 21/21 again. That's fine. That's great. Yeah, clear those -1 counters off for me, bud. Let's go. I got 2 health. I'll hit you for 21 again next turn. That sounds great to me. Then I put another one on, and then you have to send another dude in to finally kill him. This is absolutely a playable 8-drop. I am way more excited about Neymar. Oh, let's see if there's any other information here. So they're just saying next reveal article is going to be really focused on superpowers. This one was focused on plus and minus counters and how they are going to be used within the expansion. Next set, they're going to focus on superpowers. Last reveal article was focused on plot twists, and the one before that was focused on Captain America and Iron Man, where the initial focus absolutely should have been. Good call on that, Upper Deck. So I think at this point that anti-registration is shaping up to be the better team. I'm not sure either of these teams is going to, in a loyal form, be heavily competitive at all. I think Sentry might just be bad. The more I think about it, the more the idea of, oh, okay, it's turn 8, I got to top deck something, and I top deck this, and I don't have the blue and the green. Oh, even if he ends up there's a home for him in decks, this is the kind of card that I probably won't play because of that trough situation. He's got his power peaks where you have multiple blues and multiple greens, and you have this big 21/21 guy like turn after turn after turn. But then down there in the valley, down there in the trough, where you top deck him, you have no other cards to play, and the only thing you can do is throw out an 8 cost 1/1. I don't want to feel the kind of feelings that would give me in my brain. I think I'm probably, the more I think about Sentry, the more I think he's just not going to get there. I don't know about Black Widow, particularly within an environment where we're kind of just thinking about this box as like, I'm a new player. The only cards I have are out of this box. I don't know if Black Widow is going to see that much. I mean, I guess if you're playing against two people who don't really know what they're doing, they're not going to automatically know, don't put anybody in the back row. But even if you're like new, you're going to figure that out fast, right? I think Ms. Marvel's good. I think she definitely could see some play. Are you going to pick her over Moreland? Maybe if you're looking for team attacks or you need a pro reg activator of some kind. But there are other 7-drops that already exist that I think kind of outclass her. But she is playable. Sentry probably is not. Cloak and Dagger or whatever. For the people who can play decks where they build boards and they're able to keep them, these cards are probably fine. For whatever reason, I never seem to have that kind of luck when I try to build decks that rely on multiple like synergies. Maybe if you had like a rogue main character or something, so you could like rogue solo match these guys, you attack with everybody, you pay the blue, oh, my dagger is really big, I get to attack again. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not super impressed with this 2 or 3 drop. I think this 4 drop is definitely playable. I think he's probably even teetering on the edge of being good. Although I hope this isn't the only time we see Goliath in this box, because there was a specific moment I was hoping for. And this 8 drop's great. I'm for sure gonna play this guy. Just the mind games of I attack and I take out your biggest dude, right? Then I have -7 counters on this guy, so I'm down to, what is that, 14, I think? Yeah. Now, you have to choose, do I deal with Neymar, and he can fly, so you kind of have to deal with him. Do you deal with Neymar, which would knock all my -1 counters off, and then let me attack you again for 21? The pressure that's going to put on how your opponent chooses their attack lines, like, well, maybe if I just leave him be, he won't be big enough to hit something at 14-14, and then he'll shrink down to a 7-7, and then I could get him. Or I think this is going to cause your opponent to have to think about interesting, kind of unique lines. I think it's going to make you kind of have to think about interesting, unique ways to manipulate it. The fact that you could sit on a green or a blue in your hand, and then when your opponent they struggle through the decision. Okay, well, I need him to be a 14. I can't let him be a 21-21 next turn. And you throw that green out of hand, and he's a 21-21 anyway. That kind of slammed. I think this Neymar is going to be very playable. 21-21 on an 8-drop is great stats. And yeah, he's got this like fish out of water shrinking thing. I don't think that's going to matter. I think if anything, in addition to the pressure this stat line puts on your opponent's board, having to play around the ramifications of these auto spawning counters and stunning him, clearing them, and all that, I think that's going to put pressure on your opponent's decision making as well. I think this is a good card. I think this is the standout card in this preview article for sure. Maybe a standout card out of all the supporting characters we've seen so far. So, all right, till next time.